Hey there blues fans, this is John with the Blues Guitar Institute, and today we're going to talk about how to practice and get results. Now I believe you should divide your practice time into 3 distinct chunks, and the first chunk is warm-up. You really need to warm up. You got to spend at least a few minutes getting your blood flowing in your hands and just kind of making sure that you're nice and warmed up. Otherwise, it's really hard to go the distance and get a lot of practice time under your belt. Everything is harder if you don't properly warm up. Secondly, I think that you should have a specific focus area for every single practice session, and that can change from theory to guitar technique. And then thirdly, I believe that you should learn a song or a lick or write a song or a lick that puts into practice your focus area. But today we're going to take a look at my warm-up routine, and this changes periodically for sure, but this is something that I'm using right now to really help get the blood flowing in my hands. And next we're going to take a look in future videos on a good focus area and then how to put it into practice. But for right now, we're going to focus on the warm-up. As guitar players, our hands are really doing 2 distinctly different duties. Our fret hand is doing something altogether different than our picking hand. And for that reason, I've divided my warm-up into an exercise that targets my fret hand to get the blood flowing and a separate exercise for my picking hand. Let's take a look at the exercise for my fret hand. It's really just a chromatic exercise that I've shared before on Tuesday Blues, but what I'm going to do is actually play through a bit of the exercise along with a metronome. And you can pick up a metronome as a standalone device. I happen to have an app on my phone. All you really need is something that'll do 4 clicks, and ideally one that will have that first click accented so that you know where the top of the bar is. I'm going to fire this up to about 100 beats per minute. But feel free in your own practice to start slower, much slower even if you need to make sure that you can nail this exercise perfectly. All right, so here we go. 100 beats per minute, a chromatic exercise. Okay, so what we have there is this real basic chromatic movement. And chromatic just means moving 1 fret at a time. And so this is heavily chromatic. And what we're doing here is just kind of getting the fingers moving around the fretboard. You're getting your muscles kind of warmed up and ready to play, but you don't really have to think a lot. We're not doing anything melodic. We're not trying to do any guitar technique really at all. All I'm doing is just picking, and I've got a thumb pick here, so I'm just doing a little down, up. And all I'm doing is going, if I'm starting this on this G note on the 6th string, I'm just going to span this 4 fret distance, 3, 4, 5, 6, then come up a string, 3, 4, 5, 6, move to the 4th string, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the same thing. Then we move up a fret and work it back down in pitch. And something to focus on when you're doing this so that this warm-up really improves your technique is try to keep your fingers as close to the notes as possible. So you want it to look like this. Nice and controlled when it comes to the fretting versus something like this, where fingers are just kind of flying all around. That is not controlled, and therefore it may warm your fingers up, but it's not going to help you improve your technique. So pay attention to the small things and really focus on staying nice and tight and controlled while you do this, and of course make sure that you do it in time along with the metronome. All right, so the next thing that I want to show you is the second half of my, my warm-up, and it focuses more heavily on the picking hand. In fact, the fret hand is just going to fret a C major, just to keep things moving a little bit musically here. We're going to go back and forth with a picking exercise from C major to A minor. All right, so I'm going to fire up the metronome again. As you can tell, this exercise is definitely focused on your picking hand. It's very important, just as we said, to make sure that the fret hand is warmed up, that your fingers, your individual fingers on your picking hand are warmed up as well. And so this exercise keeps things relatively simple on the fretboard, but we do pick through all of the strings here. And we do it in a relatively simple pattern, but it still is warming up our fingers, our picking fingers here. So the pattern is I'm going from the 5th string to this 4th string, and then 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we change chords and do the same pattern. And then we just cycle back and forth between those. It's really important, again, to make sure that the metronome is clicking off. And every time you hear that loud pronounced click of beat 1, you should be changing chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what I did, part of the way through the exercise, is I took that and started playing twice as fast. Notice that the tempo stayed the same, the metronome pulse still stayed the same. I did not alter that, but what I did was I played twice as many notes in the same amount of time, just really playing in double time. And that's really important to be able to have the capacity in your picking hand to play at a slow, normal pace and then call on some speed when you need it. And that's why I really like this burst that comes from doing this double time. Now, you may not be able to do the double time if you start out at 100 beats per minute, but back it down. Play, start out at 80, start out at 60, start out at whatever you need to so that you can comfortably play through the normal time field and the double time field. All right. If that doesn't get your picking hand moving, I don't know what will. This is definitely a fun one, and it's really cool to work through the tempos to see just how fast you can get this. But make sure that you're really getting good, cleanly plucked notes. That's what it's all about. The speed is fun for sure, but what it's all about is, number one, getting the blood flowing in your hand, and then number two, making sure that you've got great tone and great sounds coming out of the instrument. All right, so as we wrap up, make sure that you put this into your own practice. You can grab the tab back on the website, and it'll have basically the entire exercise 1 and exercise 2 tabbed out for you. But this is more time-based than it is tab-based. So make sure when you practice, if you're going to practice for 30 minutes, devote at least 5 minutes, hopefully 10 minutes, devote that period to your warm-up. And your warm-up should consist of something to warm up your fret hand and something to warm up your picking hand. So I would divide your warm-up time into those two exercises. I hope you've enjoyed this peek into my warm-up routine, but be sure to join me in the next lesson where we take a look at how we might approach that middle third of a great practice routine, and that is how to really select an area of focus and how to practice into that area. All right, thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the very next lesson.